Good afternoon. My name is Larrylionelyoungjr, Jr., a candidate for Bart Board Director, District 4. Look forward to your endorsement now and into the future. I've chosen to answer your questions via video because I feel it's the most reliable resource ensuring that it is me who's answering the questions. It's an opportunity for you to get to know who your next board director is going to be. I'll read through the questions, answer them briefly, not giving any more than a minute per questions for time constraints. Since there are 25 questions, I will speak thoroughly, clearly, concisely. And if you have any other questions, you can email me at llyoungjr@gmail.com or contact me by phone at 510-472-0826. First question reads, please give a summary of your background and qualifications for the office of Bart Board. My background is very diverse. I earned a master's in business administration. I also possess a BA in speech communication, which gives me the opportunity, or affords me the opportunity, to not only speak clearly and authoritatively, but also understand and interpret the body languages that various cultures can display. It also gives me an opportunity to understand budgets, when we refer to my master's of business administration, being able to look at budgets, being able to look at what is going to be needed and what in some cases may need to be extrapolated from the budget or from funding, as well as being able to ensure that that's done in a timely manner. I also have a teaching credential. I've taught for the last 10 years. I've been able to teach in 5 different school districts in the Bay Area, including including Oakland Unified School District, including Hayward Unified School District, including New Haven School District, as well as West Contra Costa County of Education, as well as Contra Costa County of Education. I also have worked in detention facilities as well. I've also been a realtor for the last 9+ years, helping people buy, sell, and lease property in California. I've done that successfully, working with the public in and out, some who ride Bart, some who drive cars, some who ride bicycles. I rode Bart my entire life. I'm also a board of director with Keep Oakland Beautiful, where that is the purpose, to keep Oakland beautiful, where we have litter index, where we have Creek to Bay Day, where we try to keep Oakland a clean, litter-free, green place. And I look forward to the endorsement with Bart. Also played sports as a quarterback, so I'm familiar with working with teams. And with the non-elected officials, you need a quarterback, and that's the position I played. One that can help steer, guide, direct the thoughts of the people and of the board in the proper direction. Second question, how would you go about leading change that will result in better coordination between Bart and other transit providers, especially AC Transit? What could Bart do to improve its coordination? Can you share some ideas about what you would do differently? Right now, the communication between Bart and AC Transit, they're clearly separate entities, yet they do the same type of service. They provide public transportation to those who choose to use it. One of the ways to better coordinate that is to ensure, as it's been done now, that time schedules reflect similar time frames in which pickups and drop-offs will happen. For example, the Bart train to Fremont, leaving downtown Oakland, leaves at 11:50. We'd like to see that buses coordinating with Bart are going to at least ride by 11:40, 11:45, give them a grace period to at least meet their travel needs efficiently. Question number 3. Where do you stand on the proposed extension of Bart service to Livermore? Further in Contra Costa County, for example, Brentwood. How would you ensure that the Bart proceeds responsibly in whatever direction it goes on these proposed expansions? How do your priorities compare with Bart Board's historic planning and priorities for expansion? Which do you prioritize, expanding the system or increasing capacity with the core? What is the logic behind your prioritization? Well, the logic behind my prioritization is for Bart obviously to expand. I would like to see Bart expand down to my alumni at Cal Poly at some point in time. It's obviously projected that we'll be in San Jose and Brentwood well before 10 years. I like to see it slowly creep to adjoining cities down the coast, down Highway 101. To ensure that it's done efficiently, we must ensure that when we do feasibility studies, that we're not putting people in harm's way. We're not emitting toxins into the air from the construction. We're not tapping into parts of the ground that are polluted, causing cancer or illness to our citizens that are adjacent to Bart's development plans. And so we need to ensure that there's some accountability as well as transparency, and ensure that people that are around those adjacent areas are aware that, hey, there's going to be jobs coming soon because there's going to be some development. And that way we're informing the community, hey, if you're looking for a job, these are some of the jobs that are going to be coming up in this particular area because Bart's making its way through. Question number 4. How would you work to minimize the financial impact of the San Jose extension on the core system? Currently, the core system does not include Santa Clara County. So obviously, Bart's going to need more Bart trains. It's currently about $850 million bill to get a brand new fleet of cars that are more efficient, that are more reliable, and looks a little bit better. So we're obviously going to have to, at some point in time, start transitioning out of the old cars, but as one has always stated, you sometimes have to use what you have while you have it. And so if that means utilizing the current cars we have, as long as they're operating correctly, as long as they're clean and being used appropriately, then we'll use what we currently have and slowly progress into newer fleets as time goes by. So that's one of the ways that we can definitely reduce the financial impact by currently using the current fleet of cars that we have and slowly transition into the federally funded fleet of new cars. Question number 5. What would you do to ensure that a boondoggle project like the Oakland Airport Connector would not happen again? Well, the interesting thing is when you're working with a variety of people from various backgrounds, economic classes, social classes, no one's ever going to completely agree. My job as Bart director is to listen to the public, try to take the majority ideas and put them forward, as well as including some of the thoughts that I think will be effective. Some see it as a boondoggle project. Some see it as an opportunity for people in the cities of Oakland to gain employment opportunities and to get more business. And so you would like to see more connections that are outside of the BART station, so that way people who are further down the street. Currently, I think they're only going to be implementing a transit station further down Doolittle. And so we would like to ensure that money is being spent correctly. That's number one. We hate to waste money. We like to ensure that the money that we spend is being spent efficiently, it's being spent wisely, and it's not being misused or mismanaged. Question number 6. Does BART still need a systems expansion department? Yes or no? Why or why not? I would say yes. As BART has continued to grow throughout the years from 1970, a single entity within BART could be of great importance because it would give BART an opportunity to focus one particular area in BART, on a particular department. For instance, here, they've given it the Systems Expansion Department, could focus on just that, how they could, expand in a clean, city benefiting way. By that, I mean ensuring that when we do expand, the citizens in that city are publicly aware. Majority of the time when you go to a city council event or you go to a BART event, it's not that crowded if you compare it to how many people BART affects. We're looking at 21,000 people traveling on BART every hour. And I've never seen 21,000 people at a BART meeting or at a city council meeting. So ensuring that people are aware that BART may be coming through, or that there's studies being done possibly to send BART to your city, I think will be very important if that is included in a systems expansion department. Question number 7. Are you satisfied with employee productivity? If not, have you any proposals to increase employee productivity? That's a very interesting question. Employee productivity. How is that defined? I would probably err on the side of caution and wait till I have more knowledge to answer that question specifically. Obviously, some would argue that, hey, certain jobs inside BART, they're not very productive, yet they get wonderful salaries. Others may say they're overworked or they deal with psychological issues when you're dealing with people on BART that are doing things that are very obscene and obnoxious, or dealing with patrons every day. And so in some cases, one would say that's productive in a sense. So again, one would have to err on the side of caution and look at that a little bit further before giving a more clear answer. Question number 8. Bart has identified $17 billion dollars needed to keep facilities in a state of good repair. How do you plan to generate funds to maintain BART in a state of good repair? Several things can happen. If you're trying to maintain something, you obviously need to either put more money in or find some grants. And so tapping into the Metropolitan Transportation Commission is one good source of funds, and making sure that we use those funds efficiently and ensuring that we have facilities that are easier to manage, so that way we can save money in the process. Another example, second example, would be to raise the fares, not fares, but raise the parking fees inside the BART station. Again, if you're trying to bring about $17 billion in needed money to keep facilities in good repair, these are some of the things you're going to need to do. You're going to need money. How are you going to get the money? You're going to either raise parking fees or find more bonds to assess to citizens. That's the general way of doing it. There's also some other creative ways that we could do that by putting certain types of services on BART. More on that a little later. Number 9, what kind of cost savings do you suggest for BART? You always want to keep yourself a rainy day fund. Question number 10. What is your opinion of the MTC and its funding priorities for transit? MTC, I believe, plans on spending $9.4 billion next year. And I would like to ensure that I'm there to make sure that BART definitely gets a piece of that $9.4 billion. And so it works as a federal funded entity that facilitates the funding of federal funds. And so I think the MTC serves its purpose. Question number 11. What will you do to ensure that housing development on BART-owned properties provides below market rate housing, allowing low-income folks who are the most transit-dependent the ability to live within walking distance of BART? Well, as a candidate in 2010 for Oakland mayor, one of the things I championed was to ensure that we had inclusionary housing. And that's one of the things I think BART is doing and moving closer towards. So that's one of the things you have to ensure that BART does, that they have inclusionary housing next to BART facilities. A perfect example is the MacArthur station, which will include a certain percentage of low-income housing to facilitate and also transition these low-income housing individuals into more productive citizens. Question number 12. Would you support a regional plan for backup in the event of a BART interruption of service? Yes. What would that be? I think a perfect example was when BART went on strike. There were a fleet of buses that had to come to the rescue of the lack of access or the lack of transportation for those who needed transportation. And at that point in time, I think people realized how important and how successful BART is in terms of transporting people in a timely, efficient manner. Question 13. What will you do to expand our service or to run BART 24 hours a day, the way New York City can run their trains 24 hours a day? This goes back to question number 8, where we talked about $17 billion needed to keep BART facilities in state. That'd be my third answer. I've been thinking about this ever since I started riding BART. BART should be 24 hours. What's stopping it? What's preventing it? What's holding it back? Well, we need to champion that, push that forward. That's another way of generating massive revenue. And so to ensure that we have a safe, friendly, 24-hour working service, we need to ensure that we have proper policing, and making sure that proper lighting. We need to ensure that we have sufficient employees to staff and support those who are traveling 24 hours, because everyone has different work schedules. And just because someone doesn't have a typical 9 to 5 job, we can't necessarily discriminate against the non-9 to 5 employee. There's some people that work graveyard and they would appreciate and enjoy a nice ride home on Bart. Question 14. What do you think about the plan for bikes on Bart at all hours? I'm a cyclist. I have a nice Trek carbon fiber, and I appreciate being able to get on any car I like and ride. And it's also a way to advocate riding bikes, because that's one way of maintaining sufficient health is riding a bicycle. And that's one of the things I think Bart needs to be represented as a healthy alternative to driving a car. You know, ride a bike sometimes. It's good for your health. It'll prolong your life. Question 15. Do you believe that public sector unions should have the right to strike? Please explain your answer. Yes. Unions have a right to voice their opinion, voice their concerns, and if their needs are not being met, they have a right to do what they feel is necessary. Question number, where are you? 16. Regarding the recent strike, including the hiring of Thomas Hawk of Viola Transportation, do you think the board should have handled it any differently? Please explain. There's various ways to skin a cat, as one would say, and that's one of careful need and delicate touch. And so I'll err on the side of caution until I have more information and resources to answer that question fully and thoroughly and clearly. Question 17. Please give an example, if applicable, of when you took a position different than management's position. Please describe how you, as a director, will be independent from management. I think a perfect example is me as a realtor. When I was working for a particular bank, they were giving me assets to liquidate, to sell, and you would report to the management. And so even though you would report to management, you worked independently. You were the one to go out and assess the property's need, do a comparative market analysis, give an idea what the properties in the area are selling for, just as in Bart, give an idea of how the public feels about certain positions and certain policies and certain procedures. One of the things I hear often from the public is that Bart fares are too high, and a lot of the cost and expansion tends to roll over on the rider. And so you have to be independent in terms of not necessarily always going with management, but being a free thinker, being one who can stand strong and voice their concern and opinion and also represent the people at hand. Number 18, how can you help strike a better balance between community service police and Bart police in terms of safety and funding? One of the things I think is important is that Bart's next board of director for District 4 needs to be one that's culturally competent, one that understands all ethnicities, having gone to one of the most diverse high schools in the world, Berkeley High. I think that puts me in a very intricate position, as well as having gone to Cal Poly, a completely homogeneous society down there where it's predominantly Caucasian, and still being able to flourish in both environments. And so when we look at being able to strike a better balance between community service police and Bart police, we just need to be able to communicate a little bit better and be able to do that on a level that is not offensive, that is not misinterpreted, but that is done in a transparent, clear way that is going to not only improve the service of people, because the police are there to serve the people, both the community as well as the Bart police, serve the people, help an elderly lady get in on time and hold the Bart door before it closes. They're there to serve the people. They're there to ensure that a bicyclist can make it up the steps fine if the elevator isn't working properly. So we need to ensure that our police and community service are serving the people, and they are known for doing that. Number 19, discuss the reforms for Bart police since Oscar Grant. Do you feel these changes are adequate? Very, very touching question, because we still have memories of that unfortunate incident that happened to our brother Oscar Grant. And the new reforms that have been put in place are cameras for police officers and other surveillance techniques to try to ensure that Bart is doing things in a proper way. There also was a federal person, I think, that was appointed to come over here and do an audit, something as such. And is that sufficient? No, it's never sufficient. What needs to take place is a third party or possibly someone to sit down and make sure that officers are culturally competent, make sure officers are properly trained, make sure that officers have the best interest of the public, and if possible, make sure the officers live in the counties that they serve. Because when you live in the county that you're working in, you tend to understand the environment, the people, the culture better. And sometimes that's not the case. And so there's several things we can do as I just listed. Question 20. What are your thoughts on having an armed Bart police force? We've seen the consequences of having Bart police armed. Violence has never been the answer, but in some cases people have taken violent measures, and unfortunate things such as death has sometimes occurred. And so tasers, I believe, are sufficient for Bart officers to have. And I think that's sufficient. However, there are times when an officer may need to have a fire weapon at times. There may be a terrorist event that may occur, and they may need to fire upon the assailant. So it's a very, very challenging question, because in some cases it may protect and serve, and in other cases it may hurt, harm, and destroy the trust that people have with Bart police. And so I would say just tasers would be sufficient at this point in time, unless you're patrolling outside of Bart facilities. Other ideas you have to provide better service to reduce noise. Yeah, some great ideas would be to encapsulate Bart. So put a nice dome over it, circular, so that way it would drown out the noise for those who don't have dual pane or tri-pane windows. When Bart zooms down Martin Luther King, if you live on an apartment complex nearby, then chances are you're going to hear that and you're going to be affected by it. But then again, that's where the natural hazard disclosure comes in, let you know that, hey, you are around Bart, which does make noise. So if we're going to try to reduce noise, for example, then a circular dome would be nice to cut down the noise pollution, so to speak. Other ideas that will provide better service for Bart would be possibly wristbands, similar to the little card that they have they can swipe by. Little wristbands that could go by, they could keep around the wrist, slide by, keep on moving. That would be efficient for Bart. People have to always go through cars to figure things out. Just one way of making Bart a little more efficient and also providing better service. Also, we can ensure that Bart could have people that are at the door greeting them. Hey, welcome to Bart. Getting ready for work? Just to kind of create a sense of community, and also have them filling out surveys, so that way we can also figure out how we could better serve our patrons on Bart. Possibly put food stores on Bart so people can eat on the run. Another way of raising more money, going back to question 8, in terms of raising that $17 billion to ensure that we keep the facilities in a state of good repair. And to start serving food on site of Bart in trays, making sure that things are kept clean as well as sanitary. Question 22. Please describe the sources of the financial contributions of your campaign has received. Please identify any sources from which or from whom you would not accept donations from. I would not accept donations from the KKK, the Nazis, or any groups that oppose African Americans. Question 23. What endorsements have you received thus far? I will receive enough endorsements on November 4th when I become your next Bart Board Director, District 4, and that's sufficient for me. Question 24, and the last. Please add anything further you wish to tell us so we can make a good decision. If you're looking for a strong, dynamic, smart, creative, passionate young person, which Bart reflects when you look at the average age of the rider, then you're looking at Larrylionelyoungjr as your next Bart Board District 4 Director. Thank you for your time, and thank you, Greg Jan, for this invitation, for your nomination.